Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Hey, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism, I have a new book to take a look at, a book review, a book I read years ago before I was making videos, so I have been reading it again. Because back then I wasn't highlighting or tabbing and remembered what I wanted to say. But it was a very interesting read years ago when I read it. The Book of the Hopi, the Indians out there in the Arizona, New Mexico area. I've been to the Hopi reservation. Went up on top of one of the mesas, the mountains. Drove up this winding road to get there and wanted to go into the village, but it was kind of spooky and dark, so I didn't attempt to knock on anybody's door. This is a famous book, Frank Waters. There's been a couple researchers, investigators in the past few hundred years who have investigated the Hopi Indians. All the Indian cultures have some fascinating religious and cultural history, architecture. When I went up to the Hopi reservation, one of their villages, and then I came down the mountain again, there was a truck parked there with some people sitting on the tailgate selling mementos. This is a Hopi rattle with some feathers. Apparently the symbols mean something. I've been reading about it. And a Hopi Kachina doll. See the feathers? And apparently if they become part of some ritual and get blessed, they might be possessed with a spirit, and that would make it a Kachina doll. So it's all kind of some ritual they have. You've seen the Indian dances on movies or whatever. And they have these spiritually possessed dolls called a Kachina doll to ward off evil or whatever. Bring better crops, rain. And the noise is supposed to attract the spirits. So what is the religion of the Hopi Indians and the other Indians? And what's it have to do with Freemasonry and Satanism? I believe everything. I'm getting a couple epiphanies lately. Some aha moments. If you've been watching my recent videos, the Hopi book will be 161. Anyways, recently 157 was From the Ashes of Angels, the Forbidden Legacy of a Fallen Race. We're talking about spiritual beings, the occult, witchcraft, the Illuminati, Zionism, Freemasons, secret societies, mysticism, the Hebrews, Jews that are not Jews as per the Bible, Revelation 9. And so much more. Remote viewing, people leaving their body and traveling distances and spying and who knows what else. Apparently when you leave your body, you can actually take possession of somebody else's body and make them do things, maybe pull out a gun and shoot a bunch of people, and then leave their body, and they don't even know what happened. Is that possible? Then, of course, number 158, Blood Prince of the Gods, gives a very interesting description of who the Hebrews, the Jewish people, really are in their history. Quite interesting. Go watch my video 158. We'll be looking at this book again. All the books I've gone over, I'll eventually set up a schedule and go through all of them. Might take half a year or a whole year. Make part 2s or part 6s or whatever. And then, of course, Mithras. Who is this god with these underground facilities for their religious ceremonies? Why do the Hopis have underground facilities for their religious ceremonies? How is all this connected? Like I said, I've been having an epiphany or two, and I believe I've connected some dots. I was discussing it with a friend of mine the other day, and she said, "Oh my, that is really out there." And then, of course, another recent one I just did is 160, Voices from the Cosmos. Okay, you got a couple PhD well-known people, Angela Smith and Scott Jones, spending their lives in remote viewing and UFO alien research, etc. Spiritualism, New Age. And then Scott Jones was getting older and getting ready to pass on. And they decided to get together and put this book together, which apparently are some kind of communication with different kinds of beings, everything from reptilians, gray aliens, orbs, oranges, and even elementals and other interdimensional spiritual entities. Wow. I know, I get a little dramatic here. So what's that got to do with the craziness going on in the world right now? With Israel? I have to make a video on this book. Dangerous Liaison, Andrew and Leslie Cockburn, The Inside Story of the U.S.-Israeli Covert Relationship. So they have a secret relationship. Apparently, recently, President Donald Trump sent Secretary of State Tillerson, is that his job, to Iraq and Saudi Arabia to get them to organize and be on the offensive against Iran. Why would they do that? And then, of course, according to the Phoenix Journals, videos I made a while ago, I'm trying to see the series number here. According to the Phoenix Journals and the video I made, series 119, sorry, I couldn't see it. Apparently, the royal family in Saudi Arabia are crypto-Jewish people in an Arab country. In other words, they're related to the Hebrews, and I guess they pretend to be Islamic or Muslims. So if they are crypto-Hebrews and they're part of the Zionist program of Israel, would explain a lot why they're now teaming up at the behest, apparently according to the press releases in the USA, of President Donald Trump, Saudi Arabia and Iraq to organize against Iran. And if you've been paying attention or you're awake at all, you know that the Israelis have been complaining and promoting the fear propaganda against Iran for quite a while. And apparently even Israel had some hand, or Mossad agents, and people partying on a roof in New Jersey during 9/11. So all of this stuff going on in the world and the destruction of the Middle East and apparently chaos and anarchy in the world is all connected. Even part of biblical prophecy. Even Albert Pike, the leader of the Freemasons during the Civil War for the southern jurisdiction of the United States, wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy, saying there would be 3 world wars required to bring about the New World Order. And apparently their deity, according to Albert Pike himself, is Lucifer and the Theophist Society, which seems to be similar with the Kabbalah, mysticism, and New Age material. Their deity with the Theosophist Society, they had the Lucifer Publishing Company and the Lucifer magazine. So it keeps on coming around to some kind of thing called magic or the occult. And it's been perplexing my mind. I'm saying, what is that? And I'm sure a lot of other people would say, what is that? I don't get it. What is magic? What can they do? And I'm not totally oblivious to some of the psychic research and abilities, using wooden wands to find water, dowsing, or pendulum to ask questions of your higher mind, your subconscious, or dreaming and getting some kind of subliminal messages from the other side, or visions, or hearing things. Even Nikola Tesla said that's where he was getting information from. And in the pursuit of my investigation, trying to figure out what the heck is going on, I decided to collect old books and read about older historic scientists and famous people. And by accident, I discovered a lot of them had psychic abilities. So it keeps coming around to communication with an invisible reality, maybe called another dimension. And maybe there's more than one dimension. Maybe there's a place called heaven and a place called hell. And who knows? And maybe there are unlimited different types of spiritual entities out there. Maybe it's only limited by the imagination. Then, of course, we have the threat of Planet X, Nibiru, Herculumbus. This book was published quite a few years ago by a guy in Brazil. Kachina in the Hopi research. Blue Kachina, red Kachina. So when you see the blue Kachina in the sky, that is a warning that the red Kachina is coming. Look at the color of Herculumbus, Nibiru, red. So where's the connection here? What should we know? Got all kinds of books. Another one I need to make a video on, secret societies. Look at the all-seeing eye on the above the pyramid, which is on the US $1 bill. And says Novus Ordo Secundum, New World Order, and Anate Conceptus, mission complete, with the all-seeing eye. And these people are doing all kinds of sinister things on the planet with a serious focus on depopulation for the past couple hundred years. And if you got the right books and places to look, you know where to go. They've said it. Margaret Sanger, the lady behind women's rights and stuff, called poor people, according to my research, weeds. And the weeds need to be destroyed. I remember growing up many years ago in a rural area of Florida, and a friend of mine kept calling poor people lackeys. And in the Freemason material, the outsiders are called profane. And the Jewish people call non-Jewish people goy and goyim, which means apparently cattle. So these secret societies are bent on a new age and a new world order. That should concern everybody, especially in the last 100 years, and even more so since World War II. And they had the Cold War propaganda, the threat of nuclear war from Russia or someplace else, China. And they were spending tons of money on black operation research projects, developing biological and other types of weaponry. And apparently now they have super lasers, and they can pulse or beam vibrations and microwave frequencies and light from the full spectrum. And according to Judy Wood, those kinds of weapons were involved in 9/11. And Apparently, it's a lot of videos on YouTube. These secret societies, people running the world behind the scenes with Agenda 21 and other programs, are planning on depopulating the planet, and they maybe use directed energy weapons in California. Plenty of videos on YouTube. Very compelling evidence. And of course, I've been documenting the sky spraying of chemicals in the sky since 2005, taking photos or videos for 13 years and posting them on the internet. So I've been researching consistently, and I'm convinced we, the people, are under attack. Who is the enemy? Another book I need to make a video on is The Lost Keys of Freemasonry by Manly Hall. And I was watching another video here about the lost teachings of Atlantis. This video was talking about it. The Secret Teachings of the Ages, Manly Hall. But apparently, back there during the Atlantean times, they had some leader called Emilius, and apparently he reincarnated later to an entity known as Thoth, Thoth, who apparently, according to Manly Hall, in one of his books, reincarnated later as Jesus. Now, when I say these things, I want to make something very clear. I'm not trying to say this is what I'm trying to teach. I'm sharing what these people believe and what these books are telling me. And 50% of the books I read, I believe a lot of the information, big thick book like this from Manly Hall, and many other books he wrote. What was his agenda? What was his motivation to create these stories? The Theophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, Isis Unveiled, The Secret Doctrine, Jewish mysticism, the Jewish Kabbalah, Zionism, all these things they keep secret. Even on press releases, on some crazy press releases lately, where I type in comments to try to share with people what I know, apparently they delete my messages, my comments right away. They don't want me to talk about the fact that the people in Israel today are not Hebrews, brown people. They're white people predominantly, which are from the north, Ukraine, Russia, Poland, Germany, and from an area called Khazar, the Khazarians, who adopted the Jewish religion 1,000 years ago, and they were a very barbaric people, and apparently embraced some kind of demonic, satanic religion. The dark side of the Hebrew culture, Kabbalah. And many Kabbalists, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, were accused of sorcery. And in many places for the past 2,000 years, Hebrews, wherever they went, not all of them, were run out of the area, exiled, banished, burned at the stake, and many things, controlled, because they were practicing something in their religion called blood libel, abducting Christian little boys and maybe others, and puncturing little holes in them. I made videos on these things from books that are written about these things. Some kind of ritual. Why were they sacrificing people, abducted Christian little boys, draining the blood into little pails, with pincers prolonging the death, then drinking the blood or making bread with it for some of their religious ceremonies? How bizarre is that? And this other thing here with Manly Hall, talking about Hermes, who was a famous writer a long time ago, talking about Atlantis' deity, God being Emilius, who was reincarnated later as Thoth, who was reincarnated later as Jesus. So I've got some work to do still. Then another book I made a video on, number 57. It's always about these gargoyles and dragons or serpents and these reptilian beings, which apparently are pretty common in the UFO world. Reptilians, gray aliens, Nordics, tall whites, orbs, etc. Flying serpents and dragons. The story of mankind's reptilian past, as it says there, with Egyptian hieroglyphics on the bottom. And remember, the turmoil and chaos right now is going on in the Middle East, where the hieroglyphics came from. And they have the hieroglyphics even in the American Indians and the Hopis, or the Mayans, or the Peruvians all over the world. India and China. All these reptilian, dragon-type snake creatures. What should we know? So with all that said, maybe what I'm going to read out of this book will make a little sense. Like I said, I read this book years ago. I was highly impressed, and I learned a lot about the Hopi Indians, the Navajo Indians, the Apaches, and some of their religious rites. But I didn't know what I know now. So when I'm rereading it, I'm getting a whole new sense of, oh my, I can't believe what I just read. With that said, I'm going to read from, there's several parts to this book of the Hopi. If you can find it, I encourage you to get it. Used book sites or new book. Fascinating read. All these books I go over. I'm not trying to do audiobooks. Just trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the world. And what do they know that we don't know? Why would they be bringing us this new age, new world order and some kind of planned depopulation event? And all the stuff going on is sort of resembling the prophecies in the Bible, which are seriously concerning about Armageddon and the destruction of the world. Fire and brimstone coming from the sky. All those propaganda videos on YouTube and other places and websites and books I've been going over. There's one here about a pole shift. Earth changes. That's what it says. Planet X passes. Is it all a deception? Is it all a metaphor? An allegory? What's going on? So with that said, I'm going to read from this page 154. In this book is interesting how it's broken down. It has part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. Part 1, the myths. The creation of the 4 worlds. Even in the Theophist Society, or even in the Hitler regime and all that, they talk about the 3rd Reich, the 4th Reich. Part 2, the legends. Migrations of the clans. Part 3, the mystery plays. So if you go out west today, you're a tourist, and you go to these Indian reservations, you might just see them doing these Indian plays, these Indian dances. Dressed up like Indians, shaking their rattles. Dressed up in crazy outfits, looking like all kinds of animals and beings and beasts and monsters. What is it? The mystery plays. And part 4, the history of the lost white brother. So it's almost like 4 books in one. I'm going to be going over part 3, the mystery plays. And there are several in here, like 10 different religious ritual ceremonies. And the first one is elemental symbols. They have these things they build underground. To hold their religious ritual ceremonies. Worshipping who and what? All right. Then the second one is Wuchuhim, the new fire ceremony, closing of the roads, the night of washing the hair, controlling stars. So I was noticing a lot of similarities in these Hopi rituals and their beliefs that kind of was similar to the Theophist Society material, the Kabbalah, the New Age, shamanism. So anyways, page 154, Soyal. You can see I read and highlight here, and the word Soyal is there. So right away with Soyal, I was kind of astonished. As the winter solstice, at the winter solstice, comes the second great ceremony, Soyal, which symbolizes the second phase of creation at the dawn of life. So I thought about the winter solstice, how this chapter starts out, Soyal, in the mystery plays, apparently part 3 of this book. Yeah, part 3, the mystery plays, the ceremonial cycles. So I thought about that. It starts out with the winter solstice. And little pun here. It dawned on me. Get it? The winter solstice is when the sun goes to the furthest point south. So that would be the furthest and coldest point in the north, midwinter. And when the sun goes all the way to the south on the 21st of December, it stalls out for about 3 days, and then it starts to rise. The sun starts to rise. Hence the pun, it dawned on me. The sun rises. You got to get your humor where you can. So I thought about that, and I said, oh my, the solstices, the equinox is when the sun comes to the middle point and then goes to the summer and comes back towards the winter and reaches the middle point again, the equinox, and goes back towards the winter solstice. So you got these 4 points: winter solstice, spring equinox, summer, fall equinox, winter solstice. So you got 2 solstices, winter and summer, and 2 equinoxes, one when the sun is going this way and one when the sun is going that way. And I know I dragged that out, but the point is, if you go check on witchcraft holidays, Illuminati, and all these occult groups, a lot of their holidays are on these solstices and equinoxes. So when I read that here, I said, oh my, not again am I discovering this. So Soyal, derived from all and year, Soyal, accepts and confirms the pattern of life development for the coming year. So basically it's the beginning of the year when the leaves die and winter comes and snow and ice. And then the sun starts to come back towards the north, and things start to turn into spring, bringing us a new year. So apparently these are big spiritual, and the natives all over the world worshipped these events and apparently had some kind of communication from spiritual beings, which seems to be a very important element here in my research, trying to understand what the occult is and what magic is, what's channeling, medium, psychic communication, remote viewing, the Kabbalah, mysticism, witchcraft, sorcery. What is all this? What do they really do? Is it the fact that there is a spiritual realm that can help you or hurt you, do things for you, to even hurting other people, using magic or these spiritual entities for personal gain? Magic, witchcraft. So this Soyal ritual, which celebrates the beginning of the year, it is one of the most important of all ceremonies, being often referred to as the Soyal Langwa, establishing life anew for all the world. No spectacular public dances mark or mar its deep significance. Even its Kiva rituals are climaxed by silence. So the Kivas are the underground facilities they make where they do their religious ceremonies. For now, out of the dawn darkness, germinated life is about to make its appearance. So spring is coming and all the seedlings are going to start germinating. That's pretty normal. But apparently it had great religious significance to natives all over the world. The sun reaching the southern end of its journey, I said that, at the winter solstice, is ready to return and give strength to the budding life. To all this, Soyal is dedicated to give aid and direction. I'm only reading my highlighted portions. Please, if you can find this stuff interesting, go get this book. Skipping over some material. Each morning, the rising sun casts its shadow a little closer to a designated mark on the west wall. When it reaches the mark, the chiefs are able to determine the exact number of days until the winter solstice, when the most important ritual of Soyal is observed. A 4-day leeway is allowed, however, according to the belief that the sun may be turned back any day within this period. And remember, Jesus' birthday is on the 25th of December. And apparently the winter solstice is a interesting holiday for a lot of occult organizations, cults, even witchcraft, Illuminati. And 21st is the day that it reaches the southerly point, and it's supposed to stall out for 3 days, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and Jesus was born on the 25th. Now you know why they did that? And according to my other material I've been going over recently, a lot of the other deities have the same birthday on the winter solstice. So I suppose I made my point. It just seems a little suspicious to me. Skipping over some material and on page 155. Customarily, announcement of the ceremony comes on the day following Wuchwachim. That afternoon, the Soyal Kachina. So the Soyal is that time of year when the sun goes down and starts to come back. So they have the Soyal rituals, and there's a Soyal Kachina, and a Kachina is a doll like this, or maybe something else even, that is possessed by a spirit. A Kachina. The Soyal Kachina appears, coming from the Kachina shrine to the east. He is the first Kachina to appear during the year, masked in his turquoise helmet and white robe. He wobbles and staggers like a child, learning to walk, signifying the new life is being reborn. So winter's at midwinter, and it's getting ready to go towards spring. And life is being reborn. The leaves will start budding on the trees. The crop seeds will start to germinate. It's a religious holiday. But we even learned, if you remember recently, in Las Vegas with the shooting, that was at the Harvest Festival, which probably had one of those satanic holidays as that date. And according to my research and paying attention to all their videos, that assumption is correct when they have that Harvest Festival. Just like they have a lot of other festivals, like Halloween even. Easter, Christmas. And if you go look on the internet, which I don't suggest you do, witchcraft holidays, if you go click on some of the results after you do a search, you might see some things you can't get out of your mind. I'm surprised they even allow people posting the pictures of those satanic rituals on these satanic holiday dates. I think some of that material can cause we the people some danger. It can attract apparently demonic spiritual entities. You really have to be careful what you think, say, and do. Apparently there's a lot of traps out there being set for us. Skipping over some material, the mashtub Kachina appears the following day. So we got another Kachina, some object or something or some person possessed by a spiritual being, a Kachina. Appears the following day, a frightening figure in his black mask. His body painted black, with the imprints of human hands in white, a wild animal's pelt worn for a kilt, and his feet covered with wildcat skins. He has come a long way. His black helmet mask suggests the interstellar space he has traveled. So that's something else I noticed here. They're talking about the cosmos, and I've just gone over the voices from the cosmos. Astrology involves the cosmos. Nibiru, Planet X, coming in from the cosmos. Mysticism, Theophist Society, the Kabbalah, Hermetic material, Rosicrucians, Freemasons, all deal with the cosmos. So here I am reading this book and I'm back to the cosmos. It gets more interesting. So apparently this Kachina, his black helmet mask, suggests the interstellar space he has traveled. Interstellar space. The 3 white stars on each side of his head being the 3 stars of Orion's belt. But wait a minute, aren't the 3 pyramids near the Sphinx in Egypt lined up with Orion's belt? You see how I'm connecting the dots? His actions are still more frightening as he enters the village, grabs a woman from the crowd of onlookers, and goes through the motions of copulation, sex. Perhaps no other Kachina and his actions have been more shocking to outside observers. Muingwa sounds weird. It's M-U-I space I-N-G-W-A. Muingwa is the god of germination of all plant life. Mastop is not a deity but a Kachina, and thus a spirit who represents the male power of fertility. for human beings alone, not for plants and crops. And I'm aware, like the city I live in, that most cities downtown, they have the obelisk, the phallic symbol. So then I'm reading this here about the male power. Again, I'm connecting the dots using my brain, remembering what I read. Trying to figure this stuff out. Skipping some space here, some words. For these human hands are seer instruments of divination of the life of the body. So that's like using a pendulum to find water or rods or magic. Divination. Just as hands are used by a medical man when he lays them upon one's belly, heart, or crown of the head. But man already has had existence in previous world. So it says that here in this Hopi research and their belief of their religion, man already has had existence in previous worlds and will have existence in future worlds. Remember, I've been reading a lot of material from a lot of different books, and a lot of this theology of these religions all over the world are similar. So the short black staff painted with white rings, which messed up carries, symbolizes the ladder with its rungs up which man climbs during his successive emergences. So apparently we're in their fourth world now, and the world has been destroyed 3 times previously. And again, I'm not trying to preach this as truth. This is my understanding of the stuff I've been reading, and a lot of it appears to be the occult, Kabbalah, witchcraft type stuff, which may or probably not is the truth, because the evil forces, satanic forces, Lucifer forces, fallen angel forces, etc., are bent on deceiving mankind. That's the truth, no matter where you read this material. So man climbs on this symbolized ladder during his successive emergencies. Hence one like it also placed on the graves, enabling the deceased to climb to another world. All right, continuing on, page 157, the Book of the Hopi, Frank Waters. Purification and preparation. So in the air of portentous silence, solemnity and secrecy, Soya begins. Winter solstice. The birthday of Jesus and apparently other deities as documented throughout history. Witchcraft, other occult holidays, Illuminati. What is it with the solstices and the equinoxes? The 4 Soyo pathos, each a reed divided into 4 sections, with a sparrowhawk feather tied to each section, remain on the chief kiva 4 days. On the 5th day, the Soyal chief takes them into the kiva. Remember, the kiva are the underground facilities they build where they hold their rituals and ceremonies. And the pathos, I looked it up on the Yahoo image site. Pictures say a lot more than words usually. But apparently these weeds, reeds, feathers, and other objects maybe get blessed or energized or even possessed by some kind of spirits. So you can go look this up. It's kind of fascinating. And you can see the symbols for these pathos that they take into the kiva, the underground facility, where they have their rituals. Oops, sorry about that. My phone rang. So I looked up this pathos, P-A-H-O-S, and I looked up Hopi pathos prayer sticks. As you can see on this page I printed out from a Yahoo image site. Yahoo image site, I'm not trying to promote Yahoo, but it is a fascinating place to find out information and see that in pictures, and there is a internet link you can click that'll take you to some website where there is the definition or the information about the pictures. So you can see up here on the top of this page the Hopi link and the name I looked up. And some of the pictures with these feathers or reeds, weeds, and symbols. These faces and costumes they put on. What is it with this spirit world that I've talked about numerous times? And these sacred ornaments and feathers and masks and dances. What is the spirit world? I've mentioned this many times, so we're talking about the Hopi Indians today. But I've mentioned this book many times. The Shama from Peru. So we're talking about the Hopi Indians in Arizona, New Mexico, the United States, North America. I've talked about the Mayans. We'll talk about that again. And the other ancient indigenous tribes in Africa, India, China, Russian territories, Europe, Alaska. But apparently when they take these drugs and have these rituals, they can see things we can't see. You saw the mask on the Hopi pathos page I looked up. So when I read from the Book of Hopi, there's more information about this. Some of it coming up really soon as I continue to read. Very bizarre, as we shall see. But this particular book here, I'm going to make a video on this book. Ayahuasca, which is a vine down there that they make some kind of drug out of, enables the Shama to see images like this. And one university professor from North America went down there, and one Shama was particularly good at drawing. So the professor brought him some paper and some colored pencils, etc., to make the drawings. And the pictures in this book tell us what these shamas see in these ritualistic induced states, drug induced, meditation, prayer, rituals, dances. This is what they see. This is what they see. So what does this other world look like? What is the people who are into the Kabbalah? What are they into? Rosicrucians, initiation, secrets of the Freemasons and other secret societies, witchcraft. What is this other world? I've gone through great lengths trying to investigate this for myself and share what I learned. Got all these books behind me. All this stuff on this side of this whole bookcase is just psychic research. This is my UFO and alien and all that propaganda and material out there. So are they telling us the truth? And of course, these are this is a Mayan mask. When I picked it up in Cozumel, and these pictures are pictures of I take of the sun with filters on my camera. And in right here, this picture was in Cozumel. One of the artists used a black marker to do the drawing and colored markers to color it in. So I've been to the Hopi reservation, I've been to Roswell, and many other places, cities, taking pictures of the gargoyles on buildings, like here in Asheville, North Carolina. Why do they have these gargoyles on the buildings? What do they mean? What about the Sphinx with a lion's body and a man's head and a serpent on his head? If you've been watching my videos, you know I've been going through great lengths trying to have conversations about this stuff so that maybe we can get a clue. So back to the book. So on the fifth day, the Soyal chief, the chief of the tribe that represents Soyal, the winter solstice, takes them, that would be those pathos, ornaments, and weeds we just looked at, into the kiva, the underground facility they have all over the Midwest. Sort of like what the a little pile of books is about to fall over. What the Mithras cults have with their facilities underground, you can see in this picture. Quite interesting. I think even Hitler, with the Vril Society and some of the other occult organizations, religions they were involved in, even Hitler and other groups around the world, their facilities involved underground facilities, inner earth facilities. FYI. All right. So the chief takes the pathos, those reeds, those decorations with feathers, etc., the mask, into the kiva, the underground facility, where he smokes and prays over them for 4 days. He is alone, save for a member of the Sand Clan, who comes at night, bringing sand to spread on the floor, representing the whole earth. All right, I'm skipping some stuff here. I'm only reading my highlighted portions. Please go get the book. Give credit where credit is due. Some people went through a lot of work to try to understand the religion of this tribe in the United States, the Hopis, who live next door to the Navajos, and a lot of people have heard of the Cherokees and the Apaches and other Indian tribes and personalities, Pocahontas and stuff like that. So moving on, in front of it, he sets bowls of nigai, medicine water, made from bones of fierce animals such as the bear, mountain lion, wolf, ground and mixed with water. Then this is the chief's altar in the kiva, the underground religious thing, known as the chief's house. All right, moving on to page 158. On the 12th night, the altars are consecrated. All must be ready when the group of 7 stars of Pleiades. So I've been going over the material. about the Anunnaki aliens, the Palladian aliens, UFOs. I'm sure some people wondered, why is Rick talking about all this stuff? Well, it does seem to all come together. Even in Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike, the Bible for the Freemasons, and much of the other New Age and occult material, channeled material, talks about the Pleiades and the Palladians. I made videos on all this stuff. So it seems like I'm taking the long road to China when I talk about this, one video at a time. There's a purpose. It's complicated and it takes time. If you don't do that, you can't wrap your head around it. So here I am reading the Book of the Hopi, and we're talking about a group of 7 stars in the sky, the Pleiades, the Kukanham, the harmonious ones, the stars that cling together, is halfway between the eastern horizon and directly above, and the first star in Orion's belt. And now we're talking about Orion's belt again, the 3 pyramids in Egypt that align with Orion's belt on a certain day of the year. Isn't that interesting? Below it, just rising into view through the ladder opening about 10 o'clock. So even in these kivas, like the Egyptian pyramids and even temples and other monuments all over the world facing east, and certain things align with these stars, are very similar. The 7 stars in the Pleiades are symbolic of the 7 universes and their positions, time, the duration of the 7 Paivayas, creation, songs that consecrate the importance of the chief's altar. As the altar symbolizes the dwelling place of man upon the newly created earth, the 7 songs describe and consecrate the 7 stages of its construction. Laying the foundations, erecting the walls, closing in with beams and roof, plastering with a finishing coat, building the niche, the heart place, placing the kavuni, the character, the wood sticks in which they hang articles, and finally that which gives life, the fireplace, the warmth of the Creator's Spirit. This village dwelling, which man inhabits on the newly created earth itself, symbolizes in the subtle wording of the songs the fleshy house within man's spirit dwells. So they're talking about the fleshy house, that would be your physical body, my body, within man's spirit dwells. So even these artifacts, these pathos, these reeds, weeds, feathers, and other objects and masks they make, apparently are imbued or possessed by a spirit, just like we people are possessed by a spirit, our soul. And apparently in remote viewing, people's spirits or energies can leave their bodies, travel around, see other things, even possess somebody else's body, make them think things or do things. Even in the Bible, Jesus was casting out unclean spirits or demons. So I've been trying to figure out, what is the Kabbalah? What is magic, witchcraft, voodoo, and all these monuments and symbols and snakes and dragons and gargoyles? What is it all? It's quite an interesting topic to pursue, trying to figure it out. That's why I read these books 1 page at a time and take time to discuss it. What are we talking about? What do the powers that be that want a new world order, a new age, trying to destroy Christianity and other religions, and historically have destroyed the knowledge of the Gnostics and the ancients, even in Mexico or the Library of Alexandria? People were burned at the stake, beheaded for the disagreements or not following the people who control our world's party line. If you tried to say something different, you could be beheaded quite quickly. And many were. And think about that in the future, prophesied even in the Bible. When they do announce this new deity, this Luciferic being, this Antichrist, and the government even purchasing 30,000 guillotines, that's just the United States. Will they again declare some particular spiritual being the deity of the world, and those of us who don't go along will be beheaded, imprisoned, killed, gassed, nuked, enslaved? That's why it's so important to think about it. Apparently, history repeats itself. You hear that often enough. This village dwelling which man inhabits on the newly created earth. So a lot of these Hopi celebrations are about their version of the Creator creating this fourth world we live in as humans. So these are the stories about it, and the rituals and celebrations and the honoring of it. And apparently they have different versions of this all over the world. In particular, the secret societies, people who know things, know how to get the assistance of these spiritual entities to work for them against the rest of us. Not everything in reality is benevolent. It seems that a lot of it is malevolent, evil. A lot of people don't want to believe it or deal with it. But they'll watch the United States slowly be destroyed and say nothing until it lands on their own doorstep. Isn't that amazing? Maybe it's some kind of test from God's world. What it takes to wake up people. Okay, back to the book. The newly created earth itself, symbolizing in the subtle wording of the songs, the fleshy house within man's spirit dwells. For the building of the world itself, the home and man's own physical body follow the same creative process. All songs must be finished when the Pleiades stand halfway between the midnight sky and the western horizon, and the three stars in Orion's belt lie across the roof entrance of the Kiva. So apparently from the entrance to the underground facility they built for their rituals, on a particular night when they can see the Pleiades, the seven stars, and then Orion's belt pass by the opening, I guess it would take several hours, all their religious ceremonies, songs must be finished. All right, skipping a little bit here. I can't read it all, regrettably. Here, the Soil chief, that would be the chief of the winter solstice, prays to the sun. Here I was startled again. Here comes the sun god. Look at the pictures of all the corporations, their symbols, their logos. They always have the sun in it. Even Obama's logo had the sun in it. Even the crown on the Statue of Liberty with the 7 rays, the spikes, is a representation of the sun. You see the sun symbolism everywhere. Even on the all-seeing eye on the U.S. $1 bill, behind the eye are the rays of the sun. Jesus Christ is called the Son of God. So here the Soil chief prays to the sun with cornmeal marks, a path to the sun for all his people. Then with the wings of a hawk, he brushes each priest in turn, down each side of the body from head to foot, as if spreading upon him the yellow sun pollen from the horizon which purifies his physical imperfections. I'm skipping some stuff here on the same page, 158. During the significant last 3 days beginning at sunset, on the 13th night of the ceremony, the Soil priest takes no food until evening, when water and unsalted food are brought before him, and sit down the altar in silence and deep concentration, praying for the harmonious unity of all forms of life. Pathos are made in all kivas on the 15th day. So they make these things I've been looking at. You can look up Hopi pathos, and there's a link to each one of these pictures. And you should have a notebook when you watch my videos or other people's, and write things down and go look them up on the internet, or find the book, or look at the images, because this stuff is important, and apparently it takes a little time to understand it. And strangely enough, as much as I'm opposed to secret societies, where they teach people things that they don't want the rest of us to know about, even the Freemasons call people who are not Freemasons, what's that word? Lord, sometimes things slip your mind. But the Jews call the non-Jews Goy and Goyim, which means cattle. And they have a name for we people who are non-secret societies, profane. Sometimes it takes the brain a minute to work. So they call us profane. So my point is, why do they think the rest of us shouldn't know about the spirit world? Pictures I just showed you. All right, back to the book. Meanwhile, during these 16 days of purification and preparation, the little planet Earth has been making its diurnal revolutions about its own axis. It has been slowly revolving in its great orbit around the sun, and the constellations have been majestically moving across the skies of night. Now all is ready for one of the two great moments of the year. It is the time of the winter solstice. Here we go again. Even a popular witchcraft holiday. Even when they created the Federal Reserve in the United States in secret during Christmas, why did they do these evil things on this winter solstice? Yeah, in secret, December 21st, 22nd, Senator Hyde met on Jekyll Island in Georgia, USA, in secret, in cahoots with President Woodrow Wilson, an installed president by the Jewish Zionist Illuminati banksters, elite people who wanted to take control of the United States, and definitely have control of it now. Even Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said so in his heated Congress. Again, don't believe me, please write this stuff down on your notepad. Look it up. He said, Prime Minister Sharon, don't worry about the USA. We control America, and the Americans know it. And apparently, they're right now, Israel is favoring or making deals with Russia and China, and are ready to throw America under the bus. Apparently, they're sucking $12 to $13 million a day out of our country, and they intend to bankrupt us and destroy us from the inside. Watching Max Egan today, he was talking about that on a video on YouTube. And I wouldn't repeat it if I didn't think there was some credence to it, truth, because I've been looking at so much more. Back to the book. And anyways, when I do talk about these things, it has something in common with what's going on in the world and what's in this book about these particular holidays of these secret societies, these cults. And if you want to understand it, I call it witchcraft. Now all is ready for one of the great moments of the year. It is time for the winter solstice, when the sun reached the southerly end of its journey and must be turned back on its trail to bring ever-lengthening days of light, warmth, and life for plants, animals, and men. It is time for the rituals that give soil its great validity. All right, moving on. Page 159, a new highlighted sentence over this information. The winter solstice ceremonies. Just reading my highlighted portion. Go get the book. I'm trying to do a book, audio book. Just some information here that seems pertinent to things that we should know. The winter solstice ceremonies. In the Flute Kiva, so they have different names for these tribes. Flute, Bear, Soyal. So each of these tribes has their own underground facility for the ceremonies called a Kiva. A man wearing a white skull cap and a white cape and holding a stone axe and a bow and arrow to represent Poigayoho, the war twin stationed at the north end of the world's axis. Wow. The war twin stationed at the north end of the world's axis. This sounds like the secret doctrine, Helena Blavatsky. Kabbalah material, Hermetic material. Sorcery, witchcraft. Secret stuff they don't want you to know. Finishes dressing another man who represents Mu-Agai, the god of germination and the deity of the Flute clan. A large star is fastened to his head to indicate how far his spirit has traveled. Skipping a line here. Then he is painted with white dots from his toes, up his legs, and breast to his shoulders, and down the arms to his thumbs. The dots are like stars in the night. So they paint this guy's body to look like a night sky. His back is marked in the same manner. A kilt is fashioned around his waist. Knitted ankles put on his feet, and a turquoise necklace hung around his throat. Skipping some lines. Finishing his recitation, he dances in one direction to the beat of a drum. And I thought about this. Even in Africa and American Indians, we all know about the drums. Boom, 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 boom. There's something ritual about that. And even in the city where I live, downtown on Friday nights, they have the drum circle. Do you think that's just a coincidence? Or am I overthinking this? I think not. Throwing cornmeal to the above and below, that the 6-point cloud people may send moisture from all directions. That the 6 points cloud people may send moisture from all directions. So they throw cornmeal into the air, I guess pretending to create rain. Going to another compass point, he tells of the reestablishment of life and the dances again. May Mother Earth. I was surprised to see this in this book. Mother Earth. This is a big theme these days with the New Age. Apparently Mother Earth is really angry because we people have been cutting down trees and polluting her planet, which is her body. And she's bent on destroying us. That's what they would have you believe. These people bringing us the New Age and the New World Order with words like going green or sustainability, biodiversity. And the people who want to depopulate the planet, by the way, because we are the scourge of the earth. We're the ones who are causing global warming. So they would have us believe these people of secret societies are into this strange religion they don't want us to know about, which I call witchcraft. I've read enough about these secret societies and organizations, even the channeled material from entities on the other side. The story seems to be similar, and I'm going to continue looking at all those books I've looked at and look at them again, and maybe I can focus more on the similarities and show other people what I've been seeing. May Mother Earth bless all your people and all life throughout the world, and may all seed come back for renewal. All right, next page, 161. And pretty soon this information is going to get quite bizarre if it hasn't already. The presence of this hawk maiden, so they have, you know what a hawk is, a bird, and they have a hawk maiden, they have eagle maidens, whose function in this important ritual has always been shrouded in secrecy, and a lingering reminder of ancient times when human sacrifice was made. That sentence blew me away, reading the book of the Hopi. A lot of people have heard about the Mayan sacrifices and sacrifices of humans and cannibalism in Africa. And even for 2,000 years, plus or minus, wherever the Jewish people went all over Europe and the world, they were accused of blood libel, sacrificing young boys, particularly young Christian boys, pinholes in them to have the blood squirt out, pinchers on the boys to induce pain and to delay death. They wanted this agony, pain, and blood leaking out to be very slow, and putting the blood in pails, which they use for some of their ceremonies, rituals, in bread or drinking it, apparently to induce some kind of euphoric, drug-induced state, so they could, what, see the spiritual world, communicate with the spiritual world? Like I said, I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm reading this book in a lingering reminder of ancient times when human sacrifice was made on page 161. And the hawk maiden and an important ritual, and put that with the key words human sacrifice. I almost fell over when I read that in this book. So here's what they did. A young virgin girl was sacrificed usually every 4 years, this being the duration of the power derived from the sacrifice. So I've been trying to figure out why they sacrifice people, and apparently it says here there's power derived from the sacrifice. We are all spiritual beings in these biological bodies, so it must have something to do with releasing the spirit. And according to Max Freedom Long in his material, they actually could imprison spirits and use them as slaves. I've gone over that material. If I can remember that series number. We need to look at that book again. Looking at my bookcase, I can't see the number right away. The young virgin girl was sacrificed usually every 4 years, this being the duration of the power derived from the sacrifice. She was usually of the chief's family, and thus few young girls reached marriageable age in his family. So the chief, every 4 years, had to supply a young virgin girl for the sacrifice, and usually it came from his own family. Hence, he rarely had any young women who grew up to be marriageable age because they were sacrificed. And if he ran out of daughters, I suppose they went to the next line of royalty in the family, or maybe just picked one of the girls from the tribes. In later times, actual physical sacrifice of the girl was not made. So just like witchcraft, where I know I've read some material where there are covens all over the United States, and sacrificing a human is a big event for them, like Christmas is or Easter is to Christians. And sometimes, as I've watched or heard in some of these videos I've watched or heard during my research, some of these witches' covens in the United States, and I'm sure all over the world, they drive around in a van looking for somebody to abduct. So you could be walking down the sidewalk, and a van would pull over, and a couple guys or girls would jump out, a group of people, and drag you into the van and take you back to their witches' location, nest, site, and have a satanic ritual. This is important to them. And apparently, like 911 and other events on these solstices or equinox holidays or other important days, sacrificing humans is still important to these people in these secret societies and the rituals they perform. I guess that's a point I'm trying to make again and again, and I apologize. But to me, it seems important when we talk about things like the Las Vegas shooting during the Harvest Festival. And there's so many more events that happen on these holidays. So there is something behind the scenes that involves the New Age and the New World Order that's secret, even with the secret societies like the Freemasons doing their initiation, getting illuminated, learning things they can't tell the rest of us about. And they even call us profane. They think they're better than us. And they control our politicians and the Zionist, Illuminati, elite Jewish people. Not all Jewish people, and not all these evil people are Jewish. But they have bad plans for our planet. And if they did use directed energy weapons during the California fires, which appears to be a reality if you start looking into the evidence, or they are controlling the weather and causing hurricanes in Texas and Florida, and earthquakes in Haiti and Puerto Rico and Japan and other things. Is there a war going on right now? And the only people who don't know it are these zombified mind control people who don't know what's going on. That's why I read this stuff and share here what this material says. So it blew me away about the Hopi Indians and their religious ceremonies. In later times, actual physical sacrifice of the girl was not made. And I find it hard to believe they would give up one of the most important rituals in their ceremonies. Not that I'm saying the Hopis are doing this today, but as so many other secret societies, even like the Illuminati, and a lot of people who come out of those societies, whistleblowers, escapees, raised in those organizations since they were children, they tell all. There's many videos on YouTube by these people. I've gone over a lot of them, and I'll be going over more of them. They're confessing and telling the inside story. So I am correct when I say it seems like these things have not stopped, no matter what this page says or this sentence. Instead, the name of a girl is selected for spiritual sacrifice. So even in the Bohemian Grove in California, where they throw a baby into a burning fire under a gigantic owl that InfoWars has shown us. Jones snuck in there. What's his first name? And took a video. But they said we didn't throw a live baby into the fire. We throw an effigy, a baby doll. And I'm saying to myself, what the heck does it matter whether you're throwing a live baby in the fire or effigy? It's still pretty bizarre. Who are you worshiping? What are you doing? So now they don't throw a live girl in there. They take a name of one of the girls and use it as a spiritual sacrifice. Was whispered to a special patho, some kind of a spiritly possessed object. And get what? This is crazy. And the girl would die within 4 years. So they didn't actually sacrifice a girl. They used her name and attached her spiritual entity to a pathos, one of these feathered or weed reed things they make, or dolls or effigies. Throw it in the fire and the girl would die within 4 years. Such a sacrifice, physical, spiritual, or symbolic, illuminates. That word blew me away reading that here because I'm aware of the Illuminati. And a lot of people don't want to believe the Illuminati exist. And they don't want to believe that the Illuminati, the people behind it like the Rothschilds, are Jewish people and supported Zionism. And even in Israel, there is a Rothschilds Boulevard. And they control the banking system when they took over the USA money supply in 1913. There's books written about this. I've gone over this stuff. Illuminates one of the great hidden meanings of Soyal. So here you have it. They sacrifice a girl on Soyal. And it's a spiritual entity attached to a pathos. Throw it in the fire. The girl dies within 4 years. And it's associated with winter solstice. I believe I've made my point. You think? For this, the winter solstice, the time of rebirth of all life. Rebirth of all life. But life must be paid for with life. Life must be paid for with life. So to have rebirth after the winter solstice, when the sun goes to its most southerly point and starts to rise again, bringing spring to the northern hemisphere, life must be paid for with life. Now, what kind of spiritual entities from the invisible reality told some humans this to do? Who controls planet Earth? Was Jesus correct when he says Satan controls planet Earth right now? The germinated seed must give up its identity as a seed that a new form may rise from it. The earth itself must periodically die to ensure rebirth. The earth itself must periodically die to ensure rebirth. And remember, I'm going to show you another similarity that's not a coincidence. Eurovision, like the American Idol program in the United States. The singing contest in Europe, Eurovision. And the winner was, in 2014, Conchita Wurst. Conchita had a head like Jesus and the body of a woman in a silky dress. Conchita means a female part. Wurst means a male part. And, of course, wurst is sausage. Get it? Got it? And Conchita Wurst sings the song Phoenix Rising. And the story about the phoenix bird is it's a bird that lives a very long time. A huge, colorful bird. And in order for the new bird to be born, the phoenix must rise and burn and be destroyed for the new phoenix to rise. There's a theme here I'm starting to catch. So with winter solstice, everything must die before spring can come and the leaves can be born again. And apparently, this has to do with other metaphors about reality, people's wealth, people's power over other people. Sacrifices apparently have to be made. The Soyal chief now takes down from the north wall of the Kiva, the underground facility, where it has been hanging the symbol of the sun. So here we have the sun again. I guess if I keep reading these books and going over this, I'm going to learn about their religion. Will that make me illuminated? And I'm not against shamanism, holistic healing. Jesus did it. What I am against is secret societies and people belonging to these secret societies who are bent on world domination and will go through great lengths to keep their power, including murdering other people all the time in politics, or people who eyewitness something or know something they shouldn't know, or people who are whistleblowers who grow up in these Kabbalistic, Illuminati, witchcraft families and don't like it and tell all, and then they get killed, or people who investigate like me, William Cooper, Michael Rupert, and so many more. A lot of people have heard about all these people mysteriously dying. When you learn too much and you start sharing it, if you become popular, your life is in danger. It is a buckskin shield about a foot in diameter. That would be this symbol of the sun that the Soyal chief takes down. The lower half is painted blue, and the upper right quadrant is red, and the upper left quadrant is yellow. as it represents the face of the sun. Eyes are marked in black, and the mouth is a triangle painted black. I'm skipping a line here. The whole face is edged with a long human hair stained red and symbolize the rays of the sun, and eagle feathers radiate from the outer circumference of the shield like the aura of power from the Creator. I can't wait to get back to some of these books I made videos on, like The Secret Doctrine, or Isis Unveiled, or the Kabbalah, or Jewish mysticism. I made only one video on a lot of those books, and you're talking 400 or 500 pages. I keep looking at that material and going over it. I'm going to become more astute, knowledgeable about that stuff, and share it in my videos so other people can be knowledgeable about it. We need to wake up. We are under attack with the dumping of chemicals in the sky, the intense electromagnetic radiations from HARP transmitters, the coming G5 network, apparently directed energy lasers, directed energy weapons, and so much more, and advancements in viruses and bacterial weapons, biologicals, electromagnetic and mesmerism, mind control, and apparently the use of spiritual entities, beings from the invisible realm, channeling and playing out propaganda, deceptions, movies, books, magazines. I think a lot of people will agree we're under attack. And I don't think it's going to stop by any means. I think the more the people wake up, the more aggressive these attackers will get. So I think we other people need to wake up to the fact that there is a spiritual realm, and we can pray and talk to God also. Talk to Jesus, talk to who you believe in. I believe these prophets, as Jesus said to the Jews, ye are the killers of your prophets. So I guess there's more than one prophet. And the spiritual realm has probably sent many entities to this world to try to teach us the right way to think. But as we're already seeing, these secret societies go out of their way to kill people who are trying to share with us. And like Jesus said, ye are the killers of your prophets. So these people who control our world don't want us to know the truth about reality and about their selfish, mischievous, devious, sinister control. It is what it is. So it seems. For while the sun is himself a deity, so that's what it says here, the sun is a spiritual deity, according to this material. And I'm not against the Hopi Indians. I've been out to the Hopi reservation. I think they're probably great people. But even the Hopis, like anybody else, the Mayans or the Africans, are people all over the world, the Jewish people who are into the Kabbalah and sorcery. Apparently, this sacrificing of people is not unusual. What's unusual is most of us are unaware of it or don't want to believe it. Imagine if we all would wake up and believe in the spiritual realm and believe what these prophets, believe what Jesus told us to think, say, and do. Ask and ye shall receive. Seek and ye shall find. Imagine where the world would be. And Jesus' commandment, that's what he called it even, that ye should love one another. Imagine if we would wake up instead of letting the evil forces dictate our reality and bring us programming like Gotham, Lucifer on the TV programming, and all this other just gross material. Not good food for the mind and soul, I think. For all the while the sun is himself a deity, the chief of our solar system. So they're saying the sun is the chief of our solar system. So there is a sun god and a sun cult. And it does have something to do with Isis, Osiris, Horus, the all-seeing eye. His is but the face through which looks the omnipotent Creator, Taiwa, who stands behind. So Taiwa. Dr. Harold Colton, in his book Hopi Kachina Dolls, defines the Supreme Creator, Taiwa, as a handsome little fellow, a minor god of ornaments. All right, skipping a paragraph here, another highlighted sentence I made. You can see how important I thought this page was. I even highlighted in red the stuff about sacrificing a young virgin. Oh my. All these dances, songs, and spinning of the sun are timed by the changing positions of the three stars. Hotamkam overhead. Now is the time this must be done, before the sun rises and takes up his journey. Nothing can be allowed to go wrong, not a directional step in the dance. Not a line in a song can be omitted. No evil thought can be allowed to cross the minds of those in deep concentration. And lest we forget, the last few books I made videos on, Voices from the Cosmos. This book, Mithras, try and find that other book here, about these different religions. Got to go over this book, The Ancient Mystery Cults. See the serpent? So I kind of know what I'm going to find. The stuff has a lot of common denominators. But apparently they have to go through these rituals, even the Freemasons. I just released part 2 of Series 61, some of the material I read from the Blue Lodge Handbook, the rituals they go through to get the 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, up to the 32nd degree, and all these different cults, even like the Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, thousands of these cults all over the world, and even witchcraft rituals and incantations. They have to be done exactly correct if you want to get the power. And they don't want us to believe in God and pray anymore. They don't want us to have the power. So apparently reading the Bible can be power. And people have said that. All right, nothing can be allowed to go wrong, not a directional step in the dance. Not a line in a song can be omitted. No evil thought can be allowed to cross the minds of those in deep concentration. I'm skipping a little portion here. Nor are the 2 horns and 1 horn priest alone in this careful watchfulness. So the different tribes have their priest, and they watch to make sure the rituals are done exactly correct. They have detected the manifestations. They're detecting manifestations of spiritual beings who also come to ensure the harmonious right action of the ceremony. So even in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's material, from Hitler's diary, they had one of these rituals where they sacrificed a young gypsy man they abducted in Munich, Germany, to bring forth some kind of spiritual being, apparently according to Hitler's diary, and Rabbi Marvin Antelman, the leader of the Jewish Congress in the United States, who wrote a couple books exposing all these things I'm talking about here. Go watch my videos. This Kabbalistic, Talmudic, Zohar cults they have are similar spiritual, demonic ceremonies and religious practices. Witchcraft. Finally, suddenly, it is done. The stars overhead proclaim it. The great turn of the winter solstice has been made. All right, I think I'll try to read on here and finish this up on this particular chapter. Got something called the blessing rites. So here's the last 2 pages. And 1 other page on this side. And then the next chapter is the Kachina Night Dances. Let me finish this video. At the conclusion of the ceremony, members of the other kivas file out, carrying the painting of Mujiwa back to the flute kiva. So they all have separate, different kinds of spiritual deities. 2 plaques of pathos. So they have these pathos they make, these reeds and other things. This is a Kachina doll, a Kachina rattle, that sometimes are imbued with spiritual entities when they use them in religious ceremonies. The Kachina doll is supposed to ward off evil. I guess some of them could be imbued with powers to bring rain or to enhance growing crops. So 2 plaques of pathos are blessed with cornmeal, pollen, and honey. 1 is taken to the shrine of Mesa, guardian of the people and god of the underworld. Now there's another little surprise, the god of the underworld. Just makes you wonder what all these tribes all over the world having similar religions. But I guess if there are spiritual entities interacting with this world, the invisible reality, some people would call another dimension. And what's it have to do with this other material I've been going over? Gotta find my book here, which I'm going to make another video on. Voices from the Cosmos. Angels, reptilian beings, gray aliens, elementals, oranges, orbs, indigo hybrids, Nordics, large grays. Fascinating material. I'm trying to put this puzzle together. Alright, so the other one is carried to the shrine of the sun, or Takwaki, the sun house, the mesa to the east. And I've been out west, and they have these mountains that have all but deteriorated, and all that's left is like this funny shaped cone with a flat top. It's called a mesa. Kind of cool to go drive out west. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. Just drive on Highway 40 and then turn off on Highway 16, I believe, towards the Navajo Hopi Reservation near the New Mexico-Arizona border, and you will go on one interesting ride. Alright, all the other pathos made on the 15th day are now distributed to the homes in the village. So again, go on Yahoo image site, look up Hopi pathos. You can see how to spell it there on the top. It'll be worth your time. Fascinating. It is now about 4:30 a.m. in Shaggopi, Christmas morning, as the abbreviated Soyal here is off schedule this year. And we are waiting in a home near the Kawakiva. Everyone in the family is up in the single big room. Grandmother, mother, 2 little girls and a baby. When the members of the Kiva begin to arrive. So they're having these blessing rites. Each family there is one of the exquisitely made male and female pathos. The prayer sticks hold between 30 and 40 feathers. You notice these things have feathers on them. Even the Hopi doll has that one feather sticking out. 2 on the sides you can see here. And a couple on the head. Kind of fascinating. Hope I'm not messing with some spiritual entities who would harm me. The prayer sticks hold between 30 and 40 feathers, prayers for the sun, the fields, and the orchards, the springs, the health, love, homes, and animals. Skipping a little bit more material. Meanwhile, the priest and the chief kava are breaking their fast with special food, pika, the thin wafer bread. There's something interesting, the thin wafer bread. I grew up Catholic, Christian, and we had these thin wafer breads we took during church services. Apparently, the Jewish people, the bad ones who do the blood libels and collect the blood from a little boy, use some of those breads and other Jewish people for Passover, where they mix the blood with bread. And a lot of people have been arrested, imprisoned, probably even executed for getting the blood for these rituals in the Jewish world. I've gone over that. It's in the Encyclopedia Judaica. I'm not making it up. It's plenty of material. Go watch my videos, see the books. And it's in the Encyclopedia Judaica, published in Israel. Thin wafer bread, so I thought this was interesting, and not folded into rolls as usual, representing the flat surface of the land, the bowl of beans, and a plaque of white cornmeal, mush symbolizing the runoff from the hills to the fields where the corn is planted in the spring. About noon, the Aluha Kachina and the Aluha Mana make their appearance, going from house to house. So these are their spiritual rituals and ceremonies, these being the blessing rites. The 2 then go to the Kawakiva roof entrance and stop. Ahula facing the Mana, who is dressed like a woman. So some of these ceremonies, the male Hopis dress like females for some of these rituals. So this man, who is dressed like a woman in an atu, a beautiful cape of white and wide red border, one sees his helmet masked clearer now. On the left side of his great black and white upcurving nose, his face is painted yellow, and on the right side turquoise, the whole mask being thickly turfed with long feathers. And I did show you the picture in this pathos. If you go online and look this up, you get some crazy pictures. But you can see here, in the middle of this video, these guys dressed up to look like some very interesting beast, you think? Seek and ye shall find. Stuff you might want to not know. All right, the last paragraph on this page, 163. On the 16th day, one sees in Hudovale a more correct closing ritual. By afternoon, when the Quoquenlim come out, it is bitterly cold. There are 14 of them, wrapped in overcoats, but each wearing a mask with a green line representing a cornstalk, drawn from the mouth upward over the nose and over each eye. Each cheek is painted green and marked with bird tracks. Hawk feathers stick out from the head like ears, and rabbit skins are worn around the neck in a thick ruff. Rabbit skins are wrapped around the feet, and turtle shell rattles is worn below the knee of the right leg. All these symbolize the animal kingdom. In the left hand is carried a stick around which is twisted the skin of a rabbit. In the right is a ceremonial rattle. As they stop in a long line to dance, 4 Cocoyasum mudheads, this would be another Hopi tribe, stand behind them wearing masks of buckskin colored to give the appearance of reddish mudheads, knobbed and hairless, and with grotesquely distorted eyes and mouths. You've seen the picture I just showed you. They symbolize the early stage of mankind upon his first emergence of this world. A lot of this material is similar to what's in Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine. Muttering incoherently, as man has not yet learned to talk. So they're imitating early man who couldn't talk. Just like the Zunis, it is said when the Hopis met them upon their emergence and gave them food, hence Zuni also has Kokomisan. The purpose of these spirit people and the Kokahim with them is to entertain the people and distribute gifts to the children. So these Soya rituals during winter solstice, when the sun goes down on the 21st, 22nd, starts to rise on the 24th to 25th, when apparently Jesus was born, and during Christmas, we give our kids presents as Christians, and here during the Soyo, they distribute gifts to the children. I guess you know, that kind of threw me off when I read that, and I said, what the heck? So despite the freezing cold, they danced quickly at 4 places, hurrying through a little horseplay, and gave watermelons, sweet corn that had been baked in a pit, and little rabbit sticks to the children. Just a little bit more here to go. 4 days later, the Payawamo chief takes the patho. I showed you my pictures of the pathos, the sticks, the dolls, the mask, some kind of things they make, and they bless them in some of their rituals, and apparently they say they can get possessed by some kind of spiritual entity. The patho, which has been planted in the Nuta overhead, down in his kiva, signifying that he now takes over the religious authority. So the one who possesses these particular pathos or spiritually possessed artifacts becomes the religious authority. For 3 days now there is a rabbit hunt, and on the 4th day the rabbits are cooked for the concluding feast. And most of us here in America have a big turkey during Christmas meal, like Thanksgiving. Some people make ham or whatever else. You get the point. Anyways, these people eat rabbit. As the Soyal priest, instead of Christian priest during Christmas, the Soyal priest, but apparently they sacrifice young virgins, or they used to, and now they only sacrifice their spiritual entities using their names, and usually the princesses will die within 4 years. Just FYI, I want to understand the religions of these indigenous cultures, which apparently appears to be the religion of the secret societies, or some variation of it. Still wearing their ceremony kilts, carry a bowl of rabbit stew to the home of the designated Soyal Mama, who takes it inside. The women now come out and throw water on the Soyal men, that snow and rain may come to bless the crops. Sumviki, sweet blue cornmeal, cooked with ashes and tied to little packets of corn husk with yucca fiber, is then distributed to the people as final assurance of a happy and bountiful year. Then the author says, who can doubt that it will be? So they have all these ceremonies, guess worshiping or calling or thanking these spiritual entities and deities. It's part of their religion. And now at last comes the snow, a prolonged heavy white fall that blankets the tiny sandy fields, the sparse fruit trees clinging to the rocky hillsides, the desolate wilderness stretching unbroken to the far horizon, all the brown, barren earth of the people whose lives are dependent upon their powerful knowledge of the source of all blessings and the means by which they can be invoked. The source of all blessings and the means which can be invoked. And they're talking about some kind of spiritual entities that apparently control the rain and the wind and the crops and the rocks and the sand, the sun and the stars. What is this religion I'm trying to discover, to unveil? Well, thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.